Hi all, beautiful day down here. Hef from Hef Shed. Thought I'd do a quick video I've done on replacing the wheel bearings in a trailer. I don't know how many times you see trailers pulled up on the side of the road, hanging down one end, low arse, axle dragged on the ground for about 50 metres, bearing failure, guaranteed nearly every time. No grease, not enough grease. Bearings have brunelled, the hard facings come on off and they've failed in transit, which is not what you want going on. Costly, timely, and an absolute pain in the arse. So it's just a little video on tutorial, I suppose you could call it, on changing your wheel bearings, which I've done. And keep your eye out on the channel. If you don't like and subscribe, please do. Dazza and I will be going up the next couple of weeks, could even be next month, to the early Falcon Nationals. Hopefully we'll do a little video up there, have a few ales, and that's on, I should have the date and I can't remember it. Look it up, early Nationals, Falcon Nationals, and that's up in Narooma this year. You know, hope you enjoy. Have a good weekend. Here's our subject for the day. Trailer I bought a few years ago. I'm going to do the wheel bearings. Yeehaw. I've never done them on this. Bought it to cart the bikes. Good for two-wheelers, good for quad bikes. Good for riding lawnmowers. Brilliant. I don't like the colour. I will be changing that at a later date. Apparently, it used to be an SES trailer with a stretcher attachment to cart bush riders and bushwalkers rather, and hikers out of the bush that were injured. I don't know. But it's got a swivel front on it. You could overspeed on. So we're going to take the wheel off, start on the other side, check out the wheel bearings. If we need to replace them, or they're good enough to clean up and repack. 6-stud wheel. I'm not going to take the wheel off. This trailer doesn't have trailer brakes, so all I'm going to do is take off that hubcap, circlip the nut, and take the whole show off altogether. Righto, let's get into it. Dry as. Half a circlip on it. Let's use a shifter. Bit of that is tight. Way too tight. Pull that out, make sure that nut doesn't drop out. Not the nut, the bearing. Hardly any grease in there at all. The seal stayed on the axle. What I'll do is I'll knock those bearings out, take that seal off, make sure that stub axle's not damaged, which it doesn't look like it would be. Clean all the old grease out. Take the bearings out. Let's knock out that bottom bearing. Just hit the inner race. Like that. That's the seal cap. What I might do is just knock out the cones. Get some numbers off these bearings tomorrow, I think. just as you go down there, go to the outer, sometimes there's a recess there. Comes. It's called the cone. That's the outer race. I don't know if you can see it in there where it goes. You get some numbers off him. I'll knock the outer side out. And there's the outer cone for the small bearing. So I'll wipe all the old grease out of there and off the stub axle. I'm going in the town in a minute and I'll get myself some bearings. On the back of the cones there's a number. Same with the bearings. On the back of the bearing will be a number. It will be a Ford or a Holden. This could even be a Toyota. Just match them up in your shop, so fairly common bearing. And we'll go from there. Getting the safety clean, parts cleaner. Clean up every part. Get all the old grease out. You don't want to contaminate it with the new grease with old grease. Clean the nut, the bearings, the washer, the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker. Get some numbers off them before I go into town, hopefully. Get some. Look at these bolts. Hate them. Feel like I'm going in surgery. Someone's back end of it on. Cleaned off the stub axle, used a wire brush around the thread, got a little bit of surface rust, wasn't much there. So, and I've been into town, got myself some new bearings, bearing kit for each side, come with a seal, cap, and a new cotter pin. I've cleaned out the inside of the hub. I've just got the outer cone sitting on there. I'm going to hit it in flush with a hammer, and then a pin punch. Got a little bit of grease around in there, and then I'll pack the bearing, which I'll show you directly. That's the grease I'm using, high temp wheel bearing grease. Don't muck with anything else. And I'll just show you, if you haven't had one of these, handy packet, wheel bearing packet. Get yourself one of these. It's the outer bearing, just goes in like that. You've got this cone that goes on the top. As you squeeze it down, if you can see, I don't know if you can see that at all. It's a bit blurry, but when you push it down, it forces the grease through and through the bearing. Now you can see it there, it's come up through the rollers. That is the best thing ever. Rather than hand packing, get one of those, and I just fill that up with some of that stuff there. We'll go from there. So I'll hit that cone in. I won't film that because that's like watching dog shit turn white on the floor. Go from there. Righto. Inner cone on the inside is in. I've put a bit of extra grease in around there. just tap that in with a hammer. Sometimes you can put a socket around so it's flush around the outside of it, and then hit it in till it's flush with the outer hub casing. I'll spin him over and do the outside seals in. And I just put a little bit of grease around the rubber on the seal. Just because I've seen some cases where the seal will get a little bit burnt going straight to the axle, to the metal, to the rubber. Just keep it a little bit lube, won't leak. I'll spin him over. There's the outer. I'll put the outer cone in, which is that. Tap it in until it's flush. I'll pack that bearing, put it in, and I'll put him in and do some preload on the axle. Grease on the stub axle. Lift the wheel up, push him on. Of course, when you film, it's when you go on. Let's hold that bearing. Your washer that you took off before, and your nut. Put on there so she doesn't come off. Push him all the way on. Do the nut up. Now when we do the nut up, this is how I do it. I've been doing it for 30 years. Some people will probably argue with me. Do it up so it's nice and firm. Back it off. Do it up. And then just back it off so it's just rolling nice. I don't have any plate like that. Keep going. Boots on this is a bit hard. Still got a little bit of plate there. Some people like 2 or 3 mil. I don't like to have any. So I do it up a little bit tight, and then I'll back it off. Bearings will get hot. There's no playing that at all. That feels good. Not too much drag. A little bit of drag there, and just back it off a bit. What I'll do is I'll just back it off to line up the pinhole. That should be pretty good. Your wheel bearings are getting hot. Now I've lost the hole. You can always feel your rim. You'll feel it hot, alright. That's how I do preload. Cap on. If you can get it on. Fuck me. That feels pretty good.